Hello everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Ella. As you all know, this is another episode of the Humanitarians of Africa series, where we have been enjoying so many stories of amazing founders from all across Africa. Today, I have an amazing founder who, out of short notice, has decided to come on here to share her wonderful story with us. Thank you so much, Comfort, for joining me on this session today. It's so amazing to have you. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get straight into it without further ado. Who is Comfort Dondo? What does she do? I've read so much about you. As usual, I do not like to come here to blow people's trumpets. I love everyone to come on board and blow their trumpet. So please tell us, who are you, what do you do, and everything you think you're comfortable with sharing with us.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me. You know, as an African child, it's really hard to blow our trumpets. Especially as women, we're always told, you know, don't brag, don't show the left hand what the right hand is given. Mm-hmm. But I will try. My name is Comfort Dondo. I am a Zimbabwean child. I'm born and raised in Harare, Zimbabwe. But currently, I would say I'm a global citizen at this moment. I've lived in the United States for the last 20 years, but my heart's still in Africa. I'm a mother of 3 beautiful children. I'm a philanthropist. I'm a businesswoman, as well as an investor. But my heart is really for giving people opportunities. I'm a developer of minds, developer of ideas. In short, that's kind of who I am. Yes. And I want to say also, I am a survivor of many things and something I'm proud of. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. You are so many things, so many amazing things. And the fact that you said you love to give people a chance makes me feel so excited about this, because I already had that personal experience with you already. Okay. So talking about, you didn't tell us you are also the founder of an amazing organization that is helping women that are struggling with domestic violence and all of that. So talking about your organization, what exactly is the story behind it? What prompted you to, go into wanting to help people or help women who are suffering from this?
You know, I was thinking lately. I drove past one of my last jobs, which I had a good experience, but also some really bad experiences that made me grow. And I was thinking, wow, I still would have been here if I had not gone through some of the tough things I went through. The story behind Phumulani, Minnesota African Women Against Violence, is an organization that was birthed out of pain. It was me trying to find solutions for myself. It was in that I found that there was a gap. So I faced domestic violence with little children as an African immigrant in the US. And I realized that there was no culturally specific programs that could serve women like myself. So I went on a journey to create that, because I always like to find solutions instead of complaining about problems. That's how Phumulani was born, 2018, February 28th. I wrote my first grant I just wanted to build a space for African-born women to come and share, because I felt isolated. And then out of that became this big organization that blossomed sadly during the peak of the pandemic. And since then, we've been growing really quickly and also meeting needs. But that's how we're birthed. We are a little bit over 5.5 years old now.
Wonderful. The story of your own experience and having to want to find a solution to the problem that you were going through at that point. And that birthed something very extremely wonderful. And I'm sure you've definitely been touching lives in your tiny little way, in your tiny space. I'm so glad that you took courage from your pain and decided to go out of that pain to help others. It's really important. Yeah. So what's the impact that has been made so far with your organization, Phumulani Foundation? What's the impact so far? What's it been like?
Absolutely. I when I started this, like I said, I just wanted to create a small space for women to come and gather. And
definitely grown bigger.
We started with the what's called healing circles. When we got our first grant, it was just circles. Some people call them attire circles. And I really wanted to stay safe and small, right? Because remember, I'm a survivor, so I didn't want to get out of my comfort zone. But the global pandemic, COVID-19, it really shook the whole world. So did it shake my whole world as well, in terms of how we experienced our work growing. When the pandemic hit, and I live in the city where George Floyd was killed, so we had the pandemic, and then we had the uprising from George Floyd. And those two things created more violence for women, especially the women who were experiencing homelessness. And from that time, the impact that we made during the peak of the pandemic is we managed to house over 239 women in hotels by partnering with our Department of Health, Department of Human Services. So here I was, a new founder with barely any knowledge, blossoming quickly. Actually, we're thrown in the water, right? And it showed, it taught us quickly because we didn't have a choice. That's part of the impact. The second part of the impact is that we've become a voice for African-born women here in the US and here in Minnesota, but also globally. In fact, last week I was at the United Nations General Assembly. You find that a lot of the African women's organizations, I'll speak specifically for where I come from, Zimbabwe, people cannot really speak up when you have a dictatorship type of government. And so our program has been able to be the bridge where we speak up for women who are unable to speak. And so the impact has been local, national, and also global in a very short space of time, as far as the work.
Wonderful. 200 women just in the pandemic alone. That's a lot of women that are going through. My God.
Yeah.
God, it's so amazing. Well done. Well done. So you've said so much about going through domestic violence and having to survive and use your story and your solution to help other women. Do you mind sharing how exactly you were able to, not how exactly, because there is no one way, and I know it's going to be a very huge story, but then if you feel comfortable with it, how were you able to rise from that low point in your life to the point at which you decided that I'm not going to allow this to hold me down anymore. I want to come out of it and help other women come out of it too.
Thank you. So I'm a storyteller, so I will, and the stories are true, but I always like to connect. Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, I'm flying out to LA, Los Angeles, California. I'm going for a 4-day Speaking to Make Millions event. The woman who runs the event, her name is Lisa Nichols. And I want you to look her up. Lisa Nichols. She changed my life. I listened to her YouTube channel, just like you have your channel, and it came at a very opportune time. She's a survivor. And the line that changed my life with Lisa Nichols was when she was talking about, she realized at one point that she needed to stop being a victim and that nobody was coming to her rescue. Those words stuck with me because I had been a victim all my life. So how I overcame, or how I managed to get out of that victim cycle, it was the realization and the reality that nobody was coming to my rescue. I keep telling the women that I work with right now, we run a women's shelter. We're trying to open our second one. I always tell them, this is going to sound really painful, but I want these words to stick to the back of your head. Nobody cares about your business more than you will care about your business. People can only help so much, and then you have to put your feet back and you have to put those shoes on and put your big girl pants on and just march along. Of course, with the support of the divine and family and friends, but you are your own rescue. And so that is how that's how I managed to get from being a victim to thriving. I turned my pain to purpose. I didn't drown in my pain. I used my pain as a platform. And now I'm speaking on different platforms and I use that same pain, but just channeling it differently. That's how I did it. Yeah.
Wonderful. You are the driver of your own life. This is not just for people going through pain alone. It's about, I think it cuts across everything that we go on, that goes on in life. So when we begin to see it as we're the ones who can decide what happens, it helps us see things quite differently. I'm really touched by that too. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much. And I also wanted to say, I feel called to saying this. You said something really powerful. You said, this is not just for those going through violence. I want to say this is for the African child, for any of our African relatives. Colonization made us have a victim mentality. We're constantly waiting for a miracle. We're constantly waiting for the savior. We are waiting for someone to come and rescue us. And I want to say, and I hope some of my young sisters and brothers are listening, nobody is coming to rescue you. You are your rescue. Because I've experienced this as an African child too. I knew that nobody was coming to rescue me. I moved to the US at 18 or 17 and a half because I knew exactly what I wanted. And I put the work in. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you. Put the work in. That part is very important. Put the work in. Don't expect it to be done for you. You need to put the work in. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's like, you were just dropping it like it's hot. And I love the fact that you were dropping it. Okay, so moving back to your organization, what challenges have you faced so far? Now, as an organization, as a founder, and also when it comes to dealing with the beneficiaries, that's the women that you work with. Could you highlight some of the challenges you had to go through?
Absolutely. You know, whenever there's something good that you're trying to do, bad always comes with, there's a duality, right? There's light and dark.
Yeah.
I'll highlight a few things. Organizationally, as a Black woman trying to be in a leadership role is especially challenging wherever I'm working from. In America, it's challenging because of the history of racism and colonization.
Sure.
So sometimes I have to invite myself to the table. I have to bring a chair and sit sometimes on the side because I have the strength to do that. But it's still, there's a lot of barriers. Historically, a lot of organizations like ours are not as well funded. They're not as well supported. You often have to prove yourself 7 times before you get the funding. So that's one challenge. Then to speak of we're trying to do the work on the continent. We also have a history of colonization, right? And then patriarchy, which was not our culture. So it's really hard to be a leader and a woman in this space, working with men who might undervalue, undermine your work. And so it's like having to prove. As far as working in the community as well, I want to highlight that it's really, really hard for us as African women to work together collaboratively.
True.
In fact, last night I was in a meeting led by 3 white women, and we're trying to do a collaboration, writing a big grant. And at the end of the meeting, I thanked the leader, who is a white American woman. And I said, it breaks my heart because as Black African women, we tear each other apart. That's been really a challenge. And I'm hoping that in my generation, we can change that. In our generation, we can change that. I'm working on that. And then as far as the women that we work with, when you're working with survivors, or sometimes who are still in a hurting place, you've heard the saying, hurt people. And the saying that misery loves company. And I mean this respectfully. When you're dealing with women who've been hurt, there's a lot of layers you have to go through. Sometimes you have to put your expectations down because sometimes as a helper, you expect a thank you, but sometimes it doesn't come like that.
Yeah.
But because I've studied and I understand the cycles of trauma, I operate with a lot of grace. You said it in the beginning, part of my personality, and also my name is Comfort. I have to have grace, but it's really challenging. And sometimes you really want people to move quickly and heal, but it's a process. It's not a destination. So with our clients, sometimes it's challenging. It's really challenging. And I'll say in ending, this last week, we commemorated the homicide numbers from last year. Just here in my state, 26 women have been killed. Last night I was playing the late sister Osinachi's song, and I was just sharing it with a woman that I brought from Zimbabwe who is a survivor of acid. And I was saying, God spared your life. this sister, look at her beautiful voice. And we were talking about how when she sings that song, when she's worshiping, when Osinachi was worshiping, she was not worshiping only, she was crying for help. And so those are some of the challenges, my sister, that we face in our work, that one day I hope to wake up and there's no more violence, that we don't have to have those numbers, 26 women killed just in a very small state. So those are some of the hurdles, but we keep pressing on, you know.
It's really disheartening to see that no matter how much we try to solve the problem of violence, it just seems like it's not even ending. And I sometimes I don't even want to think or talk about it, but then it's something we have to keep talking about and keep trying to find a stable solution to that problem. So talking about violence, gender-based violence, what's the situation like? You just mentioned 26 women were killed just last month, yeah?
So since last year, so 2021 numbers are 26.
Okay.
Which them going up since the COVID-19. Yeah.
So what's the situation like generally for African women that live in diaspora? How bad is it, and how easy or how fast is it getting solved, or how fast is the solution coming for the African women? Because, you know, as an African woman or a Black woman who is living in a foreign land, it's quite difficult to access help fast, like other people. So what could you give us a brief on how the situation is right now?
Thank you so much. You know, living in the diaspora, most of us, I would say most of us, is not by choice. It's because of looking for greener pastures, right? And with immigration, as I was telling our president of the United Nations, with immigration comes a lot of trauma upon the trauma of leaving the home. And what we experience with the families in the diaspora is the violence is a final product, is the end product of what's going on before that. That is, a lot of the African diaspora families, they are very stressed. When people move to the diaspora, the dynamics shift. Our African men, they don't get the jobs as quickly, or they're not receptive to the kind of jobs they have to when they move here. They have to start from the ground up, right? The women go back to school, usually go into the nursing field. They get a little bit more money. When those dynamics shift, there's a power shift. Sometimes it's not what the women are doing, but it's the men feeling less like a man. I've heard this from a lot of men that I talk to. And with that, and the stressors of another country, and people are not aware of these stressors, or they're not just paying attention, but immediately there's a pressure pot happening in the home, and before you know it, you hear there's a stabbing. I remember one of the cases that I'll never forget is a woman from Ethiopia. I had to go in and testify to the pardon board to explain to them the things I just shared with you. And I remember she was just crying. She had been in jail. They were deporting her back to Ethiopia. She had stabbed her husband because he'd been abusing her for a long time, and she had it. And I'm not saying that was a good deed, but one thing she kept saying was, I wish I had someone to talk to. I wish I had someone to talk to. So if you think, when we're home, we talk to our neighbors, we talk to our community. Our mothers go to church, to cooperatives, to societies, and they talk to each other. Here in the diaspora, we are working, and we don't even have a life. And before you know it, we are almost operating like zombies, where we are not even aware of what's happening to our bodies and to us. So my sister, it's a challenge. And I think people don't really get to talk about this. I've studied this, and I want to share and say the sense of self-awareness and community, it kind of wears off when we're in the diaspora. The stresses are much more. And so I think I want to encourage the people who are back home in Africa to say, sometimes when you're even calling your relatives, stop calling and just asking for support. Call and ask, how are you doing? How is your heart doing? What can we do to support you? It doesn't have to be monetary. It can be just a family Zoom call on a Saturday and just make that person laugh. Because my sister, life is not easy here. People are really not doing well in terms of health. They might show come home. And the problem is when we come home, we want to show our family that we're doing well. We're strong. But a lot of the times we're weathering like the rocks inside. And so I just want to say those things perpetuate violence in our community. Yeah.
You're very, very, very correct. When you were just talking about this and sharing, it reminded me of something. I live in Cyprus. I'm running my PhD program at the moment. And
oh, good for you.
Yeah, I work and school at the same time. So there's a colleague at work. She used to say something very funny. She says, abroad is a very lonely place.
It is. It's lonely.
Yeah, and when she says it, we all laugh about it because she keeps saying, you guys don't leave me. Let's hang out after this. I just want to sit and talk. And each day she says that, she's like, let's go out on Wednesday. Let's go out on Friday. I'm like, aren't you tired of going out? But it was later I understood that she just needed to vent. She just needed a space to talk. And that was it. And really, that helped her. And when we built that connection of doing it frequently, so everyone comes at the end of the week over a cup of juice or something, we're just venting everything that happened during the week. We're just venting. It makes everyone happy and lighter, and we're able to go around the day like if everything is okay again. And you actually made a lot of sense in what you said, and I totally agree. I totally agree with you.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So moving on, we're almost done with asking all the many questions. I know you're getting tired already. But then I wanted to ask, what do you think if you didn't have to go through so much pain and have to go through what you went through with violence and all of that? Do you think you would be at this, you have gotten to that point where you want to move your pain to purpose, to helping people? If that wasn't the case, what would you probably have been doing differently?
I love that question. I've actually answered it so many times before. I would be in a small little cubicle working on someone else's mission that I might not be interested in. My third book that's coming up, I'm an author.
Yeah, so
my third book that's coming up is called The Gift in Pain. When we go through pain, you see, nothing surprises God. I acknowledge God. God has already designed your blueprint before you were in your mother's womb.
Right.
And that blueprint God is a mathematician. He's accurate. He's on time. And whatever pain you go through, I say always pause and ask, what is the gift in pain? What is finding me in this pain? What are the lessons in this pain? If I had not gone through this pain, I would not be this butterfly. You see, metamorphosis is not a very exquisite or even pretty experience.
True.
But when you see those butterflies, they're lovely.
So beautiful.
They're so beautiful. Yes. So I would be somewhere working on someone's mission. I would not be the global leader that you see speaking to you right now. And so for that, I pay homage to all my pain. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. If you didn't have that, you would actually be working on someone else's vision, and you may not have been as fulfilled as you are right now doing what you're doing, as happy as you are helping people and changing lives. And that's really, really good. So I remember I looked through some of your work, and there was something that you mentioned. You said sociocultural, ethnic, and religious morals influence interpersonal behaviors. How exactly does this work? Could you throw some light on that?
Yeah, thank you. I'm an advocate for, so a lot of the programs here in the US, they're designed for the person with the European background.
Sure.
And I'm an advocate, and we keep saying, I know these shelters, for example, were built for an average white woman, but since we've the last 10 years or so, even 20 years, in the state where I live, if you look out, I always tell legislators, can you please look outside your window and see how things have changed? In Minnesota, 22% of our immigrants are from Africa. We have second largest Somali population out of Mogadishu living right here in Minnesota because of the war, right, in Somalia. Also, because of the civil war in Liberia, we have the second largest population group out of Monrovia living here in Minnesota. So what I advocate for is that we need to change the way we do our work and the way we put resources, even how we structure, for example, shelter, domestic violence shelter. The average African-born woman does not have 2 children and a dog. They have 5 children. They're probably taking care of their sisters, 2 sons.
True.
And they probably have their mom or their mom's cousin living with them.
True.
And so when a woman wants to leave violence, we have to look at this. We have to look at her whole person holistically and see how we provide a home like this. The most recent home I opened is a 6-bedroom home, and I divided it into 2. So 3-bedroom and 3-bedroom, because I know that if one of my sisters wants to flee, she's gonna bring with her the whole clan. And number 2, the men domestic violence shelters in Minnesota, they cook for the women. You know, they cook Western food. I said, the one thing you should never take away from an African-born woman is their ability to cook for her children. Even when she is in a shelter, allow her to make her cassava leaf, allow her to make her topogi, allow her to make her traditional foods. Because for us, cooking is a spiritual practice. So these are some of the experiences that people might not even think about, like food. Who thinks about that? No, that is healing. And that is a part of that we need to keep when we're taking care of people and we're trying to support people holistically. So that's what I meant by that statement. And I'm a big supporter of that because I am that woman.
Yes. Definitely. Spot on on that. Like when they have to move from a bad experience, they shouldn't come to another experience that makes them feel less of themselves. They should feel like they are already home and begin to loosen up and feel very comfortable with the whole situation. And doing all of this that you just mentioned, the cooking, the ability to move with the family, gives that sense of belonging, and it's easier for them to get things done. And that's really beautiful. So finally, before I let you go, are there any programs or any particular projects you want to talk about that people can support your organization with?
Thank you so much, Ella. That's really that's very kind of you to ask, and I appreciate that. So I'm on a path of moving from just domestic violence to also tackling prevention of sexual abuse. Especially sexual abuse in children, because we realize that a lot of the women we serve, there's a connection of what happened to them as children. So our right now is we want to launch a continent-wide sexual violence prevention campaign. I would love a lot of programs that are on the ground doing the work to partner with us. I would love for you to visit our website. It's www.phumulani.org, or you can look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm not quite on TikTok, but my name is Comfort Dondo. And sometimes it doesn't take just money. Your collaboration really matters. We need to so that we keep our children safe. We're living in times where the days themselves are not as righteous. And the rates of sexual violence within children, boys or girls, is really high. And what happens when that abuse happens for them as children, they're the same adults who are going to be faced with either domestic violence or causing violence. So I think prevention is better than cure. That's one of the programs we're working on. The second program that we're working on is on ending period poverty. We want to end period poverty in Africa. And so we are launching mass manufacturing of sanitary pads that are reusable. But we're not only trying to manufacture them, we would like to teach the young women how to start their own businesses, to make them and to become entrepreneurs. So if you're a program that is interested, or you know a program that's already doing the work, please come and partner with us. I believe that we can make change. And those are my main 2 asks today. Yeah.
No problems. Wonderful initiatives. I can already think of some organizations I'm going to send across your way. Like I have some already in my mind. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I know it's very early back home right now. Thank you so much for getting on this call with me at this time. So everyone, you know the drill. Check the description box, check your screen. You're definitely going to see how to reach out to Comfort, the website, how to contact her, the email, and everything you need to reach out to her and the organization. Feel free to please share, because someone in your network would definitely somehow, some way want to work with the foundation and want to support the work that she does. So please share on your WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere on your stories, so that so many people can get to hear the word. And there are so many educational stuff that has been dropped in this session today. So someone somewhere can just be encouraged by something that Comfort has said, or by something, but be educated by something that she has said today. So please do not hoard it. Feel free to share to as many people as possible. Comfort, I really enjoyed this session and I learned so much. Thank you so much for having me and for being here with me today. Is really an honor.
Thank you so much, Ella. I wish you well in your studies and congratulations, PhD. And thank you. You're doing amazing work of sharing beautiful stories from Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, from us, bye.
Bye.